Welcome to Hops News, the trusted source in beer culture news. Here's your host, Jay Brew.
Hey, welcome back to Hops News. We got a
ladies and
great
gentlemen
episode tonight. Matt is feeling all sorts of giddy and wrestling tonight, but we have a great guest. We have Brad from Common Law. We haven't had him on in a while. His brewery is actually opening up tomorrow for his grand opening in Spring Hill, Tennessee. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that. And we're also going to deep dive into the Molson Coors versus Stone lawsuit. So that just came out with the verdict, and we got a couple lawyers here who love beer and are ready to talk about it, and one layman who's going to give us his opinion as well. And of course, we got Jay on the buttons. So to start, I'm going layman. That's what they teach us to call people who aren't lawyers in law school. You're just a layman.
Can you put that in layman terms, please?
They really just want us to think we're better than everybody else. That's what it is. So to kick off tonight, I am drinking a beer from my favorite brewery, Tactical Brewing. I know you're not supposed to have one, but I do. But it's called Two Sides to Every Story, because in every lawsuit, there is two sides to every story. And this is a New England with Cryo Citra, Strata, mangoes, and mango terpenes at 6.7%. And it is fantastic. And I got it out of my law school pint glass. So before we hit our guest, let's take it to Matt and find out what was your wrestling name again? Hop Hogan? What's Hop Hogan drinking?
What's up, brothers? Hop Hogan here. It is WrestleMania weekend, as you all know. And
is that why you're acting like this? Is it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just vibing. I'm here. I played some Ultimate Frisbee a little bit ago. I've been walking like 10 miles a day. I've been sweating my ass off. I'm in a 2-star hotel in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm drinking a more Cowbell double IPA coming in at 9% alcohol by volume, handcrafted in Houston, Texas, coming from Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company. It's actually pretty good. More cowbell. Do not ask from whom the cowbell tolls. The cowbell tolls for thee. I don't know. I felt like it was pretty good because we're going to be ringing some the midnight bell or whatever it is. A dong. The verdict is coming out. It is here. All rise. I don't know.
Maybe Stone just needs more cowbell.
Maybe they do. You know what? I bet you if they had more cowbell, they wouldn't be so angry all the time. But who am I to say? Who am I to say? But I certainly wish I was in Spring Hill, Tennessee, because I heard there's a pretty sweet event going on tomorrow with some pretty cool people. And this has been a long time in the making. So I feel extra giddy for my dudes, Mark and Brad, just because like this is exciting to see happen. So enough of me rambling. You don't want to listen to me. Let's get to our guest.
Yeah. Hey guys, good to see you again. It's been a while since I've been on, but yeah, Mash, you're 100% correct. Obviously, big day tomorrow, which is why I'm actually not drinking anything right now. I am in the tap room, cleaning lines, prepping faucets, getting everything ready. We just switched over from the soft opening beer menu we had, which was just a couple of our beers and a couple of guest taps mixed in, over to our full menu. So now it's 10 of our beers, 4 guest taps, and keeping my 15th line open for tomorrow because I've got a bunch of one-off kegs that are literally some very interesting things that I crafted specifically for our grand opening tomorrow, including some barrel-aged selections and at least one hard seltzer that is the brightest pink that I have ever seen in a beverage in my entire life. So should be really interesting. People are going to see it in a glass and they're going to be like, "Oh God, what the hell is that? I can't drink that," because it looks like some kind of like floor cleaner or something. But it smells good. Smells like bubble gum. It probably tastes pretty much like bubble gum too. So it's going to be really interesting to see what people think about it when we throw that sucker on. It's going to be a fun day. So we're open 2 to 10 tomorrow for the official grand opening, and then we've got food trucks and live music and all sorts of stuff going on all weekend. So we're going to make a party out of it for 3 straight days, and then I'm going to take Monday off of both jobs so that I actually have a day of rest, which is going to be nice for us.
Yeah,
that's gonna be well deserved, man. So well deserved because you've been working.
Yep.
Most people are like, "Oh, you've just been working, getting the brewery open." No, you've been busting ass at 2 jobs, man. Two jobs, and brewing beer on the side. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I work my day job. I probably work 45 hours, something like that, on a regular basis, and then for the last probably 10 to 12 weeks, we've been pushing kind of 30 to 35 a week in the brewery, just because getting beer ready for opening and just kind of getting everything outlined. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I think when I take Monday off, it'll be my first actual day off in like 8.5 weeks or something like that. So it'll be fun. I'm gonna take my kids to the zoo.
Man, I hope you actually take the day.
No,
off.
I am. My daughter keeps asking me. She's like, "Daddy, is this your day off and we're going to the zoo?" And I'm like, "Not yet, sweet girl. You got like 3 more days, and Daddy's gonna be real tired before that day." So.
Yeah, a zoo day is not a day off.
So earned though.
I like the zoo though. It's fun because it's. I mean, I got 2, and both of mine are young, and so they make noises at the animals and generally have a pretty good time just walking around. And we've got this big like wagon that's like you can take it off-roading. It's got like these massive wheels on it, so we just put them in the wagon. They both have a seat, and we just push them wherever we want to go.
I like it.
We're going off-roading,
I jump curbs with it. Yeah, if we're on the sidewalk and I need to not be on the sidewalk, I'm like, whatever, just right off the curb. It works.
At least you still got one kid.
They like it. They think it's fun.
Yeah. I heard that you guys are also going to be having some trivia nights at the brewery too, right?
Yeah. So the tap room space that we took over, it was a tap room that used to be called Wild Hair Beer Company that was really just kind of a craft beer tap room. They carried big wide variety of stuff. They used to have a trivia night every Wednesday, and people loved it. It's in Spring Hill, there's not a ton of stuff to go out and do during the week. So a lot of times, if you want something to go do, you've got to go to Franklin or Columbia or Murfreesboro or one of the other cities around us that have a little bit more going on. But Wednesday night trivia was one of the few things like midweek. And so like you'd come into this place and it would just be absolutely packed every Wednesday for trivia. And that's been the biggest question that we've gotten doing the soft opening is like, are you all bringing trivia back? Like you can't steal trivia from us. We have to have our Wednesday night trivia. So we're rolling it back out. We're changing the format and stuff of it a little bit just to mix it up some and have a little bit of fun with it. But it's going to be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward. I used to come play in the trivia when it was Wild Hair, so I'm looking forward to kind of being the man behind the trivia now instead of on a team. But I'll probably still come in and just join because I was always a pickup player. Like I never had a team. I would just come in and be like, "Who's missing players tonight? Can I join your team?" And so I know most of the trivia regulars because of that, because I've probably been on their team at some point in time. And so I may still keep doing that. And if my team wins, then they just get to keep the gift card that they get for winning, because obviously, like, I don't need the gift card. Like, I make all the beer, and I pretty much just come in and drink it if I want to. So I don't necessarily need a gift card for my winnings.
Makes sense. Well, before we go into Stone versus Molson Coors, you got anything else for us, Hop Hogan?
Oh man, I don't think I do, Brothers, I don't. I'm just drinking beer. I'm here for the ride. I'm going to give you my uneducated opinion, and we're going to have a good time.
All right. So yeah, there we go. I was gonna say, Jay, take us to the Brady Bunch view. So for anybody not familiar, recently Stone filed a lawsuit against Molson Coors, and the verdict just came back, and they won $56 million against Molson Coors. It's most likely going to be appealed, as all huge lawsuits generally are. And they only got 56 as opposed to, I think it was 216 million that they wanted to get, because the jury said that Molson Coors did not intentionally rip off the Stone logo with their Keystone Light. And if anybody's seen the pictures, you see a can and it just says Stone really big. But if you turn that can, it does say Key above it. And the packaging it comes in still very much so says Keystone. It does not say Stone, nor does it look like the gargoyle or anything that Stone Brewing has. So either of you want to jump in real quick and tell us a little bit more background before we go into the
Yeah.
actual trademark infringement?
Well, I just want to say one thing because I think this illustrates something interesting about the American justice system. This is why you can't trust juries with anything. Because one of the key pieces of evidence that was presented in this case was that Keystone filed for the trademark on Stone and Bunch of Stone twice and were rejected both times because the Patent and Trademark Office told them that it infringed upon Stone Brewing Company's trademark, and they did it anyway. If that's not intentional, I don't really know what is. And so like I'm confused how the jury could say that, like, yes, it infringes, but it wasn't intentional, so we're going to reduce the damages. Either it doesn't infringe and Molson Coors should be fined, or it infringes and Molson Coors did it intentionally because they were told by the Patent and Trademark Office that it was going to infringe. So I mean, it's just you can't trust juries, man. I did criminal defense work when I was in private practice, and you really can't trust juries there. They're just unreliable.
See, I've been fortunate. I've never actually done a jury trial. When you do foreclosure defense and bankruptcy, it's all judges' decisions. But yeah, and you learn which judge is gonna decide on what. Yeah. Well, I think if you
it'll
had
be
one
interesting to see what happens to.
What happens to it? Go ahead.
I said it'd be interesting to see what happens, just because there are still questions of law that exist in that case that the judge will have to decide on. The jury has decided the facts of the case, and it's kind of rolled on those. But there's still a couple of open questions of law from everything that I've read. And then, like you said, Molson Coors is going to appeal. You're crazy not to, if you have a $56 million judgment against you, even if it costs you $2 or $3 million in legal fees to appeal. If there is any hope of you winning or getting a reduction on appeal, do it. It's like I open my FanDuel Sports app and bet $10 on something. That's basically like what Molson Coors would be doing by appealing the suit. They're going to risk a small amount of money for the potential of a big reward. So I think you'll see this appeal filed pretty quickly. I think once the judge comes back on all of the outstanding questions that he's got in front of him.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is if you had one craft beer person on that jury, I feel like it would have been a different situation, because nobody that's truly into craft beer is gonna confuse Keystone and Stone Brewing. But before we get into that, because we had Sawstone Brewing on the podcast almost 2 years ago now. So this case was filed a while ago. And one of the things you have to do when you're doing trademark infringement is you have to protect your trademark. You get it registered, and then you have to like monitor it. And if anybody tries to register anything that looks like it could be confused with your name, you have to object to that. So Sawstone Brewing, which is a little brewery in Kansas or Kentucky, filed
Kentucky.
Okay, for a trademark. Let me see if I can find what they actually said about stuff. So they named their brewery Sawstone because it's based on like a limestone that they build like historical houses with in that area. And the building that they moved into is actually like made out of sawstone. So that's why they were doing that. And Stone was like, no, we're still not okay with that. And Greg Koch wrote a strongly worded letter that he posted on his website about how the brewery was bullying him. And now he didn't actually sue the brewery, but he did object to it. And Sawstone's still around. So I've tried to find if anything had happened with that, but Stone got a little bit crazy and started kind of throwing these small breweries under the bus, objecting to their things to protect their trademark so that they could move forward with Molson Coors. So, and I think that's where we kind of left everybody last year. But So let's go more into the case, because you had some funny quotes and tweets and whatnot from Molson Coors, Brad.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it already that, if you're a craft beer drinker, like arguably you're not going to confuse Stone and Keystone. Like, I would be lying if I said I haven't drank Keystone Light before, but I was in a fraternity in college, so I pretty much drank every cheap beer that's potentially available at a grocery store. So, but Stone is really the beer that got me into craft beer. Drinking Stone, Arrogant Bastard, Rogue Dead Guy, a handful of beers like that are really the ones that got me turned on to craft beer originally. But there's a very different market segment, obviously. I mean, Keystone is the appeal of Keystone when I was in college is that you could go buy, 30 of them for $10 or whatever it was. I mean, it's a really cheap, mostly tasteless, no offense if you're a big Keystone fan, but like, it's not a great beer. It's just not well made. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be cheap. It's meant to be bought in bulk. It's meant to be something that you can just like, kill a bunch of while watching a football game or something. And so, like, there is a huge difference, obviously, between the marketing segment that you're looking for Stone and what Keystone is going after. And the attorney for Molson Coors actually pointed that out during the case, but he did it in what I think is a really funny way. So I pulled up the quote just so I make sure I don't misquote the guy, because I don't want Molson Coors to sue me. But so the quote from him basically says, the products are not remotely in the same price range. More than half of Keystone Light customers are not working, while 25% of its customers make less than $30,000. We're not marketing to the same people. These are different beers sold to different people. So basically, this attorney went in front of the judge, and his argument was, nobody's going to confuse these because we sell to people that are drawing unemployment checks, and Stone sells expensive beer, and the people we sell to can't afford Stone beer. He actually went on at one point to note that Stone at one point had a tasting room in Napa that they had to close, and he kind of quipped that like Keystone Light is never going to have a tasting room in Napa, which is probably a fair point. Like, I'll give him that one. I'm sure the jury probably accepted that as a valid argument.
Right. And we should say that's very relevant, because one of the things you need to prove in a trademark infringement case is that these two trademarks would be likely to be confused. So that's really what it all kind of goes to, is were people actually confused when they went to go buy Keystone thinking they were buying Stone, and did Keystone have the intent on doing that? And another one of the things that we look at, though, is, are they direct competitors? And so that's one I think is a little more of a gray area, because while you do have those craft beer drinkers that are like, I only drink craft beer, and even when I go tailgating, I'll buy the lager from the local brewery, as opposed to buying Keystone or Bud Light or something. But then you have people that are, truly frequent breweries regularly, and will still pick up a 12 pack of something for a tailgate that's, big domestic beer. And so, and I actually gauged on my, friends. I have like 10 friends that live in the area that we have a regular beer chat. So I gauged the opinions, and they're like, they were pretty in the middle. And it was like, yeah, they are competitors. They do. They're like, yeah, I enjoy drinking a Coors Light at a football game, but I also enjoy going to Tactical and having an amazing New England IPA. So that's another thing, to consider.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, Mark was laughing at me the other night because I sent him a picture from a place that I stopped right after we got done at the brewery, and I was drinking a natural ice. And I was like, it's probably the first natty ice I've had in a long time, but it was like, a 24-ounce natty ice for $2.50 or something like that. I was like, whatever. I've just been working in a hot brewery all day. I'm drinking a cold natty ice. So yeah, I definitely think there are people that are 100%, just kind of craft beer or nothing, that are going to go to Buena Vesa, which is another Stone beer, which is one that Stone is really trying to push over the last few years as sales on their IPAs have dropped. But you do have people, I mean, even me, I mean, I run a craft brewery. I make beer. I will still occasionally pick up a 12 pack of Coors Light because I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be outside and it's 95 degrees and I need something to keep me hydrated. It just really depends on what you're going for the day. So, I mean, I tend to agree with your group, Hoppy, that there is a level of direct competition between the two. And I think that's especially true. You know, if you look at old school Stone, where it was all based around West Coast style IPAs, maybe not. But in the last couple of years, as Stone has really started to push Buena Vesa and some of the lagers that they're pushing, like, is there really that much difference other than just sheer quality? Is there really that much difference between a Buena Vesa lager and a Keystone Light? I mean, I would argue that those beers do compete with each other. It's just a different price and market segment. But the difference is, instead of a 6-pack costing you $4, a 6-pack costs you $10. Like, is that enough of a price difference to put them in completely different categories? I don't really think so. I would say that they still have some level of competition with each other.
Right. And one of the things Stone argued was that when this happened, they took a huge hit in sales. Meanwhile, a lot of the other big craft breweries like, Cigar City's High Life or Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale actually went up during COVID. And so I thought that one was interesting. And, because it's causation. They have to, prove like, this led to that. So I do wonder, were there other factors? Was the whole Beer Jesus documentary, did that shed him in a bad light? And anybody who hasn't seen that, Greg Koch went to Germany, opened this gorgeous brewery there. It's a really good documentary. We talked about it, I think, when we first started the podcast. But then he kind of shit on German beer to Germans, and like, you don't ever shit on German beer. And he's like, there's not just fizzy plain lagers out there, which he's right. And again, like you said, I think Stone got most of us into craft. Stone and Dogfish. I mean, their IPAs are what made me fall in love with hops. I got the Arrogant Bastard sticker right here on my table. But so how much
Who made
of that
you fall in love with
turned
News
people
then?
off? With News?
Anderson Cooper.
You fell in love with hops.
Oh, I was like, what?
Hops News.
I actually really liked Megan Kelly when I was in law school, because she always did Kelly's Court. And she would have 2 different attorneys come on and argue the cases. Yeah, so it's why else did Stone's, sales go down? Was it really from just Keystone Light? And one of the things Keystone argued was, before they rebranded, Keystone has a 15-pack, not a 12-pack. They have a 15-pack. And apparently when they did that, their sales started to go up. But then when they rebranded, I guess it went up a little more. So I don't know. Do you think?
Well, I saw an interesting theory. Yeah, I saw an interesting theory that was talking about, because that is a good question. Like, even if Keystone did this, like, is it actually damaging Stone in any way? And yeah, Stone sales are down, but Stone was already on a little bit of a downward trend, especially on some of their more IPA focused lines. And one of the really interesting theories that I saw, and I don't remember, it was one of the legal blogs that did a write up of this that put it out, was that if you look at when Stone sales really started dropping, it was like 2017, 2018. That's the time that Voodoo Ranger came out, and the time that Hazy Little Thing came out. And so they were, large scale, readily available craft beers in the IPA segment that were more on trend with what was going on in the beer industry, because Stone was still making Arrogant Bastard and their normal IPA, which are all West Coast. They're more bitter, piney, more traditional American style IPA. Whereas Hazy Little Thing and Voodoo Ranger and some of these others that were coming out were catching on to that New England style IPA trend. They were more fruit forward, hop flavors, juicy, tropical, citrusy stuff. And it just appealed to the consumer more. And so I think there's at least an argument to be made there that, like, Keystone's rebranding probably had no sales impact on Stone. What really hurt Stone was a failure to keep up with what the market was looking for, and continuing to try to force an old style when there was a trendy cousin of that style that was dominating shelf space at the time. So it's a very interesting theory of is, should they be looking at some other people and pointing the finger from a competition
inward
perspective instead of
exactly. I mean, their enjoy buys I always thought was very intelligent. I thought that was great marketing, because 1, they had it by holidays, so you'd see everybody posting these on holidays, and 2, it's like, hey, it's an IPA, drink it by this date for its fresh quality. And honestly, I haven't really seen them lately, but I mean, I thought that was genius. But then they had the upside down label, which was a little interesting, and I guess they said that they liked the response they got from people, but I don't. A lot of people were like, "I don't understand. Why'd you put your label on upside down?" But
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
I
awesome.
was. I mean, I get it, but I mean, honestly, that was one of those marketing schemes that, like, when they put it out, it was just kind of like a, oh, like, I just kind of groaned a little bit because, like, yeah, I get it, but like, I'm just not a. It's not a marketing ploy that would appeal to me, um, which is funny because arguably I'm, part of Stone's target audience for who they're trying to sell beer to, because I'm a, you know, heavy craft beer drinker and, knowledgeable about styles and,
And
familiar
you have
with
a
Stone as a
beard.
brand, have bought Stone in the past. Yeah, I have a beard. I mean, that automatically
Angel White.
qualifies me to, to be part of Stone's marketing program. So,
But I got to visit the brewery in Escondido. I'm not sure I ever say that right. In 2019, gorgeous brewery. Oh my goodness. I mean, great little bistro. We did the whole tour. It was amazing, and their Woot Stout is so good, and it's so nice to get a nice stout in a 12-ounce can. But I never even thought about that. They really don't have a single hazy. All right, so let's put a pause on the lawsuit for a minute, and let's go to Matt because he just cracked open a very festive Texas beer.
I was answering Micah. He asked if it was Frida. Sorry. So this is actually called Beer on a Stick. It's a Mexican style lager from Alamo. I'm assuming that's the brewing company's name. I actually grabbed this because Fiesta starts tomorrow, which, if you don't know, is a week. It goes from April 1st through the 10th. It's like a 10-day celebration of the Battle of the Alamo, and it takes place here in San Antonio. So I thought this is a pretty sweet can and I'm going to be hitting up a lot of cool things uh, in regards to Fiesta. So I'll probably have some good content, and you'll probably get to see a lot of cool stuff on our TikTok or Facebook and whatnot. And one of which is I might be live from Weathered Souls on Saturday. So yeah, I figure I'd pick this bad boy up into nice light drinker.
That's very nice. And I saw
That's
you had a
good.
Black is Beautiful
This
before. Were you just
is
showing us the
delicious.
can?
Yeah, so I was. So I went to I got right here a Black is Beautiful. This is the OG right here. So from Weathered Souls Brewing Company. I haven't been to the brewery yet, but I saw this in stores and had to go ahead and grab it because, like I said, it's the OG itself, right? I mean, Weathered Souls, everybody knows the story of Marcus and Weathered Souls and how they got that Black is Beautiful movement started. And I had to get a couple cans of the OG.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's what I got going
I still have a
on.
couple. The thing I like about the Black is
It's
Beautiful
good.
too is because they're stout, you can age some of them. So I still have some from some breweries in my fridge. So if we ever get him back on, I'll have to crack
Looks
one
like there's a
open.
QR code
So you
on
said
this
we had.
one, so I'm gonna have to.
You're gonna have to what?
Sorry, I was just saying there's a QR code on this can. I need to take this little sticker that they put the price on and see what the QR code leads me to.
Ooh.
yeah, always random QR codes interest me because you never really know where they're going to take you. That's half the fun of a QR code with nothing around it. Like, oh, where's this taking me?
Yeah, it's like the one on the Super Bowl, the Bitcoin QR code. I scanned it. So yeah, we have some commons
I was
in
hoping it
the.
would give me a bunch of free Bitcoin.
No, I think it crashed their site because so many people did it. So Micah was commenting Stone, Rogue, Dogfish, New Belgium, Sierra Nevada, Trogs. I'm assuming those are breweries that got him into craft, and yeah, those are all the big boys. But that kind of goes too
It
to
just takes you to
one
their
of the
beer.
things. Oh, to their website.
It just takes you to the website.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's smart.
Mystery solved.
We need to do that with our stickers. Scan the QR code and it takes you to hopsnews.beer.
Oh, this is a nice looking brewery. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it looks like a nice looking
I
brewery.
see Alamo really big.
Yeah, I need to. Looks like I got a spot that I need to hit up. This looks like Cornhole right outside the city. I'll report back. That's for sure.
Nice. If they know anything about their
a
actual
beer called
history,
Davy Bockett. Hell is Bach called Davy Bockett. I'm in.
nice. If they know anything about their actual history, they should give all Tennesseans that show up a discount because we had a big part to play in the old Alamo.
Just a little bit.
We went. Sounds terrible, but I don't remember much of the history. When I was going to the Alamo though, everybody's like, ask if you can go to the basement. Like everybody wanted the Pee Wee Herman line. Like ask, yeah. We did not ask about the basement. All right. So going back to Mike is mentioning these breweries that are very big breweries, but they're still craft breweries. So one of the things, though, that Greg Koch was saying is this is David versus Goliath. So is this truly David versus Goliath when you have this ginormous craft beer company, but he's still a fraction of the size of Molson Coors? So I'd love to hear any opinions in the comments or from either you of is Stone Brewing David? Is Molson Coors Goliath in this scenario? Or is
No.
Sawstone David and Stone Goliath?
Yeah, Stone's
Yeah, well,
definitely Goliath because they're over here bullying everybody.
Well, and it's one of those things that I mean, it's all a matter of scale. You know, I think trying to paint yourself as like we're purely the victim here, you know, we are the little guy in this is a little bit disingenuous just because Stone is so big. I mean, Stone has plenty of resources. You know, arguably the reason they went so aggressively after Molson Coors is that they've got a big loan payment coming up this year, which has been pretty widely reported. They've got a $400+ million loan payment that needs to be made to their investors. And you know, I would say if you've suffered dipping sales for 5 years and you're kind of struggling to find your niche in the market again, $407 million may be tough to pay out. So I've seen it at least suggested that maybe the impetus for this entire lawsuit was, well, there's 250 million of it if we can get a jury to side with us, which may put them in a much better financial position. But I mean, anytime you're talking about, you know, the net sales of just Stone's baseline IPA are something like $18 million for that single beer, you are not David. You are not a small craft brewer. You are brewing at a scale that, you know, if it wasn't for the Brewers Association continuing to refine what makes a craft brewer so that Boston Beer Company can stay in it, like you may already be out of the club. You know, and I know plenty of people that, as much as they still like Stone, you know, don't really look at Stone in the same light as they would a smaller brewery, because Stone has now moved to that point where they're a nationally known brand. They're at a production level that, you know, 99.9% of breweries in America will never see. And so I think it is a little bit disingenuous to try to claim that they're David and that Molson Coors is Goliath. I mean, don't get me wrong, Molson Coors is Goliath. They 100% are Goliath, but you know, Molson Coors and AB InBev and some of those, you know, the true David and Goliath stuff is when they're coming out, you know, against breweries that brew 500 or 600 barrels of beer a year, and, you know, hitting them with a team of 12 attorneys and just being like, look, you can't fight us because you can't afford to. So you just have to agree to whatever we want you to do. That's where those companies are really engaging in David and Goliath type stuff. Stone has the money to be able to absorb this, arguably. So I don't agree with the whole David and Goliath thing. I think that was a little cheesy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. And yeah, it was big versus small, but yeah. But the co-founder Steve Wagner, the other guy who owns Stone that we very rarely hear about, he actually testified that absent a verdict and damages award in their favor, that they would most likely lose the company. So, you know, that's an interesting one to consider. But yeah, there should be almost like different tiers of craft, because there are breweries that just shouldn't be in craft, but they're still independent. But then Molson Coors said, like, Stone's not our competitor, AB InBev is. But now that you have these big breweries buying, you know, like AB InBev sells Elysian, they sell Goose Island, and they market it like it is craft. So then you have an argument that, you know, we are direct competitors, and you do compete against Stone, because if you're competing against AB InBev, who claims to sell craft, and we sell craft, then you are trying to compete against us.
Yeah, and I haven't really looked to see what Molson Coors has in their portfolio, but I mean, I'm willing to bet money that Molson Coors has large ownership stakes in a number of craft breweries. Just because that's what's happened over the last several years. And you know, the ones that bother me even more than that are the ones that, you know, because there are plenty of breweries that have started as craft breweries that have done really well, and an AB InBev or Molson Coors has come in and said, you know, we would like to buy, 49% of your brewery. Here's a ton of money. We're going to give you our logistics and distribution chain. And it's kind of a no-brainer for people. But, there are some contrived brands out there that, the AB InBevs of the world have just created branding around that when you look at it, like they've never really been independent breweries. They've always been owned by one of the big beer companies, but they market themselves as craft beer.
Yeah.
And who knows, the trend in craft beer right now, arguably is swinging back around to lager. Maybe at some point it swings all the way back around to tasteless lager and Keystone becomes craft beer. I mean, it's certainly possible.
It is very possible, but I'm sticking with my hazies. I still haven't jumped on board. I mean, I enjoy a good lager, but like I like the Mexican lagers with the lime, but like I need some flavor. I can't go back. But Molson Coors owns Kugels. I can never say that one right. Obviously all the Miller. I'm trying to find more like somewhat craft. They don't own as many like craft beers, it looks like, as Revolver Brewing. That's
as
one
InBev does.
Yeah. Saint Archer.
Oh, nice.
Terrapin. Okay. I didn't know Terrapin was under Molson Coors. So there are quite a lot. But yeah, that's interesting because we actually have a brewery in Miami called Vesa Sur. And when they open, we're like, oh, it's a new brewery. You can walk there from Jay Wakefield and from the new Dogfish Miami. But AB InBev actually opened them. So they were never a craft brewery that were bought up. But the beer's brewed on site and it's a craft brewery. So you can argue the beer still has, great quality and whatnot. Yeah. So
and that's the interesting thing in craft beer right now is you do have that argument, because it used to be like if you were a craft brewer, the assumption was not only were you small, you were also independent. And now we've blurred that line of like, because arguably there are small breweries that are 100% owned by AB InBev or Molson Coors that are still making craft beer because they're making small,
batches,
new stuff, things that they're coming up with out of a single brewer's mind. They're just not independent. But then you could also argue that like there are plenty of independent breweries like Stone that maybe have outlived their mantra of being part of craft beer, and now they're just big production facilities that happen to pump out a specific style that isn't American light lager but doesn't necessarily make it any less mainstream. So yeah, I think the line, it used to be that craft beer and independent were the same thing. They're very different things now, which is funny because the Brewers Association, like if you're a member of it, the big thing that you get is the little icon on your can, the little bottle that says, that you're independent.
Upside down
but
bottle.
now we've got some people that like, carry that label that like, they're independent, but like, are they really still craft? Which is like a whole, I mean, that's probably a topic we could spend hours debating, but.
Yeah. No, you nailed on the head before. It's they keep increasing it for Sam Adams to stay in that craft. And like Sam Adams, the portfolio they have now is like what? Twisted Tea, Truly, Dogfish. It's crazy. And when you have two of the biggest craft
breweries, can't trust any people from Boston.
Seeing if he's paying attention.
Nope.
They drink too much Dunkin' Donuts. It goes to their head.
Oh, I'm here. Don't you worry. First of all, we're wicked smart. All right.
We don't doubt that. So before I go into the quote did you see the quote Greg Koch said when he got the verdict about this being a historic day? And so I think this goes to like Greg Koch did pave the way for craft. Like he really did a lot for the craft beer community. And I think that instead of sitting back and being like, wow, look what I did, I'm flourishing, the breweries around me are flourishing, he still wants to keep like paving this way. And I don't want to discount what he's done in the past at all for the small breweries. But he said, this is a historic day for Stone Brewing and for the craft beer industry. Molson Coors threatened our heritage, but we stood up to the threat. They will put the key back in Keystone, ending their hostile 4-year coup. I always say that wrong. Of the Stone name. Cheers to our legions of fans, friends, and supporters who believe in the good that craft beer brings. This is your win, too. Is it our win?
Shout out to all our haters. Sorry. I feel like that's what that was missing at the end of that, because that's how that
I was like,
read.
did somebody say something hateful? I looked at the comments.
No, it just that whole statement read like one of those teenage girls that were like, first of all, to the haters, goodbye. Our legions of fans, like, all right, get real, bud.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion on the matter.
So what am I supposed to do with all this Keystone I accidentally bought because I thought it was Stone? Can I return it?
Drink it.
This
Nah,
is a
drink
joke.
it.
I did not do that.
It still
Just,
got booze in it, Poppy. It still
Pour
got
it in
booze
your
in it.
garden. You know, great
I'll
water.
cook with it. Hot Barons.
Water the flowers. That's true.
I'll make some
Don't
beer
cook with
brine.
There you go.
Cook with it. It's like cooking with water.
You might accidentally get some of the flavor of it if you cook with it. So don't cook with it.
It'll suck the flavor out of the chicken. It'll be like, oh.
There's flavor in that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Well, not until it sucks it out of the chicken.
I didn't know there was flavor in that anyways.
That's
I don't know. I'm not great. I'm not a great cook.
So what are your guys' like lawyership aside? What are your personal opinions within reason on this whole matter?
Personal opinions on Stone? I think he got a little, what I was saying before, where he kind of got a little too big for his britches, but still wants to be considered I think he wants to be considered David, and he doesn't realize he's not David anymore.
I agree with that. I think that's
true.
I think that's spot on
very,
the right
very
analysis
much,
of where they're at.
Do you think that if Keystone and Molson Coors and all them, when they go ahead and they appeal this, do you think they have any basis to stand on, or you see it kind of playing out the same way again?
I mean, I think they've got at least some good arguments to make. I know one of the arguments that came up is, there is proof in their marketing that they've been referring to the beers as Stones since before Stone Brewing was a company. So, I mean, arguably they've got some history there. I think the thing that really though is going to kill them is the whole you applied for the trademark on it and you got denied multiple times and you still did it anyway. To me, that's just kind of the nail in the coffin to him. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to lose sleep at night if Molson Coors loses $56 million. I just don't really care. I'm also not going to lose sleep though if Molson Coors appeals and the jury verdict is overturned on appeal and Stone doesn't get the $56 million. Neither one of those are really going to, because to me, this is two big corporations fighting it out with each other. This is not the kind of stuff to me that I care as much about. What I would care more about is, going back to, we were talking about Sawstone earlier. If Stone had actually attempted to go through and sue Sawstone, that I would have cared about, because then you truly do have a David and Goliath situation. Because if I remember right, when Sawstone was on, they're like a 3.5 or a 5 barrel brewery. They're my size. They're a small brewery that produces a couple hundred barrels of beer a year. Stone produces more beer in a day than Sawstone produces in a year. So it's one of those that then you really do have David and Goliath. But I think Molson Coors has some good arguments on appeal. I'm kind of curious to see, like I mentioned earlier, there's still questions of law that are open for the judge. I mean, it's possible, even though the jury has said, we find in favor of Stone, there might be some question of law that precludes judgment in Stone's favor, and the judge could come out and rule that at some point. So Stone hasn't technically fully won yet, and then the appeals process, and that gets dragged out for years. I mean, it's been 2 years since we started talking about this case originally, and the lawsuit was already going on at that time. We just started talking about it because they had sent the cease and desist letter to Sawstone, but that they were already a year or two into the lawsuit at that point. And Stone had lost their request for summary judgment because the court had ruled that they didn't aggressively enforce their trademarks. But I think it'll be interesting to see what happens on appeal. But this is going to be maybe we'll throw something at my brewery's 5th anniversary party or something to talk about the final verdict on appeal in this case, because it'll probably take that long. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. So, let me see. My computer just froze. So yeah, that's, I mean, really what we were trying to, I feel like we accomplished what we came here to do today, kind of break down some of the law and not really pick a side, because we can't pick a side because, we don't have all of the facts. Like, we don't have all of the court documents in front of us. And we should say you can't just appeal because you don't like the verdict. So they have to find a reason that allows them to appeal. Because I know a lot of people think that, oh, well, I don't like this, let's just appeal. That's not how it works. So one of the things that they do look at with copyright infringement as well is, like, if the goods in question are related but do not directly compete for sales, the likelihood of confusion analysis becomes more complex. Then we use the LAP test, which is a non-exhaustive list of factors to consider. And so a couple of those you have, like, the strength of the trademark, like how strong was Stone's trademark. To us, it's very strong. But to the average person, who's not into craft beer, does that gargoyle mean anything? So you have the degree of similarity between the trademarks, evidence of actual consumer confusion. So this one we even mentioned before. Was there actual consumer confusion? If there's anybody out there who accidentally bought Keystone thinking it was Stone, let us know. If you come to us and you have proof, we will buy you a beer. We will send you Stone beer. I'll send. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, Woot Stout
I
is
will
really
literally
good. Stone
buy
still makes
you a
fantastic
pack of
beer.
Stone beer. Like,
Yeah, I'm also gonna buy you a better education because I'm gonna be honest if you got confused by the two.
Send
Like,
them a Cicerone
I've got
book.
some doubts. Yeah, I've got some doubts about your quality of beer knowledge
or reading capabilities. So they also look at the marketing
to be fair,
channels
Keystone
used.
did say they
What
have a
did
bunch
Keystone
of uneducated
say?
people drinking their beer. They said they have a bunch of
Yeah, they really
uneducated people
slammed their
drinking
target market
beers.
there.
Yeah, see,
Like, hold on,
if
wait
I
a
were a
second.
Keystone,
What?
yeah, if I were a Keystone drinker, I would quit drinking it just because of the things that Keystone's attorney said about me.
Like, I'm gonna start
Not
drinking Stone
necessarily
now.
because I was gonna go drink anything else, but yeah, that was an interesting argument.
What do you mean this is not Stone?
Yeah,
But they also
when I
look
saw
at
that, literally the first thing that popped into my head was that scene in Dodgeball. Like, bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him, because that very much felt like one of those moments.
Jason Bateman narrating this lawsuit. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Hopefully they
Yeah.
make a movie about this one day and he can. But they
Oh,
also
that
look
would
at the
be
marketing
interesting.
channels
Yeah, no
used.
kidding,
And it's
right?
like, I've never seen a Stone commercial. Like, I've seen Keystone commercials. So, I mean, are they using the same marketing channels outside of maybe billboards? And obviously the intent, which the jury said Keystone did not have intent, which you made clear, like, they very well might have if they were trying to apply for the trademark. So that actually works against Keystone. And the type of goods involved in the degree of care likely to be
Yeah, they're
exercised by the
secretly
purchaser.
sharing
So it's like,
marketing.
how much but I think people do put a lot of, again, this is a hard one because I'm biased, because I put a lot of thought into every single beer that I buy in the store. So if I'm bringing it, even if I'm at the brewery,
Well, the interesting thing, yeah, and the interesting thing to me would be too, I mean, if I just locally, if I look at the places that I can buy Keystone versus the places I can buy Stone, they're not really, other than like Buena Vesa or some of Stone's like mainline stuff, they're not sold in the same stores, because I'm going to a grocery store to buy Keystone. If I'm going to buy Arrogant Bastard or any of Stone, what I would consider Stone's better beers, like, I've got to go to a liquor store in Tennessee to buy those. And so, like, to me, they don't compete against each other because they literally don't even occupy the same shelf space with each other, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, I guess that would depend on your state's alcohol laws, and if you live in one of the states where all alcohol is sold through an
That's a
ABC
very
or whatever.
interesting point you have there. The fact that they don't even share the same shelf space. I mean, you're 100% correct. They are in very two different places. Like, I was just looking last night. Like, Stone was probably a good like 50 feet at minimum from where like the Keystone, the Bud Light, and all that kind of stuff was at. So that's another really good point I didn't even think of until now.
Yeah. And so, can you really be confused if you can't buy the two things at the same place? Like, I mean, to me, that says like you couldn't possibly confuse them because you can only buy one here and you can only buy one here. You know, unless you're one of those people that gets super excited and you're like, oh, Stone Brewing has beer in the grocery store now, and you grab a 30 rack of Stones,
It's blue
now
can.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, oh wow, I don't remember 'em being this cheap.
Well, and that goes
Yeah.
to the whole, if they had one craft beer fan on that jury, it might have gone differently.
Mhm.
I'd
We
love
need
to
to
see
become
that.
jury duty
It'll
for
be
this. We
interesting
have
to
no
see.
bias at all.
Yeah, I get eliminated anytime I get called for jury duty because they usually ask you, like, you know, what do you do for a living? Where'd you go to school? That kind of stuff. And like the moment they find out I went to law school, they're like, you're excused. Like they generally
just give
don't
'em-
want you on juries if you're an attorney.
That makes a lot of
I've
sense.
always
They
gotten
want
out of it
the
because of
uneducated
the
out
kids,
there.
or they just didn't call me. But it's like, as a lawyer, as a young lawyer,
Military
the first time I
clause,
got it, I wanted
baby.
to get called. I wanted to sit in on it. Oh, look at that. None of us will
I
ever
can't
sit
get
on a
called for.
jury.
Like, I can get called for jury duty, but I'm just like active duty military. No, thank you. But
Yeah.
Carrie actually has jury duty in May.
Oh,
Oh, but can she
not
say
in a
she's
beer
a
related
primary
Report
lawsuit.
back
caretaker
to
of
you
a
guys.
child under 5? That
I
gets you out of
guess
it.
not. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, really? I should have let her know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've gotten out of it twice because I was a stay-at-home mom to a little kid.
Damn. Oh well.
So there we go.
Maybe she's gonna sit on
All
this
right.
big.
So,
Who knows? She could be the deciding vote.
all right, if Jay's still there, why don't we go around the room and take it to Brad, and so we'll get some parting shots. Any last minute thoughts on Stone and Molson Coors, or just common law? Because we are all very excited to see you in July. My tickets are booked. I'm coming.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those where, as I've been reading stuff about this case, I mean, I've literally had bad thoughts about pretty much everyone involved in this case. Like, do I think Molson Coors did some shady stuff? Yeah. Like, do I think the way Stone conducts their business all the time is great? No, I think they do some arguably shady stuff, like what happened with Saw Stone. Do I think the jury in this case is silly? Yes. Like, how could you find Molson Coors, violated the trademark but didn't do it intentionally with some of the background information that was available to you? Like, I just think that, like, this is not one where I'm necessarily going to like rail on any one participant in this trial, because I think there's plenty of stupidity to go around here. And so I think everybody needs a little chunk of it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one evolves over the next couple of years as it goes through appeals and everything. And I mean, it could be that Molson Coors comes back and says, look, Stone, we'll settle. Like, we're not going to appeal this, but we want the judgment reduced. And, Stone accepts a reduced judgment, in lieu of having to fight through appeals, because Stone's going to continue to spend money on legal fees too, potentially, as they fight through some of these appeals, and could still ultimately lose on one of them. So they might have some vested interest in kind of cashing out while they could too. But yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on it. In terms of taproom life, when I hop off here, I'm going to go back to making sure lines are getting cleaned and helping hook up all the kegs and making sure our untapped menu is set for tomorrow and everything's good to go. We've still got a little bit, obviously, until we open. I got 16 hours roughly until we actually open to the public tomorrow, but lots of stuff to do in that time. Lots of stuff to make sure we've got set up and everything's ready to run right. So looking forward to opening tomorrow. This has been a 2.5-year journey to get to here. So it's cool to finally see people, coming into our tap room and sitting down with us and, drinking our beer and, giving it silly ratings on Untapped. That's what
Silly
happens
ratings.
Yeah, like, this beer is
I'm gonna
a
go in there and
perfect
just start
example of
putting stuff in
style, but
Untapped
I don't like
like
the
right
style.
away.
2.1.
Right.
That's what we see. We were laughing the other day because we
This
had the
beer
same,
tastes too much like beer.
the same beer got checked in like 5 times in a row within a short period of time at the same place. It's a restaurant that has us on tap. And quite literally, the check-ins of the beer ranged from a 2.75 to a 5. But they all averaged out to be about a 4.1, which is what that beer is rated on Untappd. So it's one of those, like, even if you get somebody that just goes in, and occasionally I'll check profiles of stuff, like that, just to see, like, is this just somebody that rates harshly? Because those people exist. I saw a picture of one the other day where this guy had given a beer a 3.5, and the brewer responded and was like, "Hey, could you tell us was something wrong with it? Like, what did we do bad?" He was like, "Oh no, it was great. I just rate on a 4-point scale instead of a 5-point scale. So 3.5 is actually really good." And they were like, "What the hell?" Like, you can't just arbitrarily decide when the rest of us are on a 5-point scale that you're going to use a 4-point scale. That's the kind of stuff you see at Untappd, though. It's I know they changed the name of the Instagram account. It used to be Untappd WTF, and now it's called Pilsnerish, but they still have some funny stuff on there. I get a kick out of that site, but I see it in live in real time, where we get some ratings on beers where we're like, really? Come on, man.
Well, I know Tactical had a sour ale they put out, and somebody gave it like a 1 and said, "I only like ales and lagers." Yeah, that's all.
Well, beer. You're in luck,
right? That's what you just drank.
Yeah. Goodness.
Well, that's awesome. We definitely cannot wait to make it there. So, Matt, why don't you tell us what's up with the geeks? It's always funny when I ask you that.
Well, what is up indeed? So this week we dropped an episode that I don't remember off the top of my head. Just kidding. We talked about Moon Knight this week. That's what we did. Wow, I'm sorry. I am just, there's a lot going on for me here. I'm like in the military, professional military education setting. So it's like, oh, talk about leadership for 8 hours a day, talk about this for 8 hours a day. And then it's like, oh yeah, talk about beer later on. So sorry, my brain's a little fuzzy. We did drop a Moon Knight episode. Watched Moon Knight. It is out now. So go ahead and get your Moon Knight fixings. And then we also dropped a episode of The Bullpen in which we spoke with Braxton Cosby about Star Child Comics. That came out right now. After this, we are going to be doing a Morbius deep dive. And after that, I don't know what's going on next. I couldn't tell you. We got some plans. I got some episodes saved up. Maybe, yeah, we'll see. Maybe I want to record with you next weekend, Lauren. Maybe I'm like, hey, you know what? I miss my co-host. I want to hang out and drink some beers together. Maybe that's what I want to do. So it's a surprise. I'm going to keep you on your toes. But other than that, man, we're just doing a lot of good stuff. Make sure you check out our website. Nobody does. But check us out, hopsnews.beer. Go to our website. Lauren put in a crap ton of work. Go read the articles we've got. Hopefully I'm going to be live from a brewery this weekend. Maybe I'm writing about a brewery this weekend in some capacity. I'm going to be at a brewery. I'm with a bunch of people who don't really like craft beer that much. So it's a little harder for me because I'm not paying $30 per Uber ride to get places. So I'm trying to figure it out, but I promise you'll see something soon. So Brad, I am wicked stoked for you guys, man. From getting to know you guys over the last couple of years to Suedo kind of brewing beer with you guys. It's been a really great, really just proud, of getting to watch this journey. So I hope everything goes well tomorrow. I can't wait to watch the videos, see how it goes. And I can't wait to make our way there, man. I'm super stoked for you guys. You've busted your ass. This is your moment. Just bask in it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good day. I got a feeling. I'm not gonna bust out into song.
Oh, I got a feeling.
Well, and just the beers we've gotten to try of yours have been absolutely fantastic. Like, who makes what was the curry sour? Like, who makes that taste good? Like,
with the curry goes
the curry goes that we did.
That was so
we did a second version of that beer that had mango in it, and it was arguably even better. It was pretty damn good. I like the mango one. We've got, actually, our menu for tomorrow is pretty straightforward. Honestly, we don't have anything crazy like that because we didn't want to like scare people off right out of the gate. But so we've got a lot of traditional style stuff on the menu. But we do have the one I'm really excited about that we're releasing tomorrow is we do so our Tart Reform series, our sour series. We're doing a a blood orange daiquiri version of it. So it's blood orange, lime, and then it was aged on some rum barrel chips before it was kegged up. It legit tastes like a blood orange daiquiri, and it's like this really pretty, like deep orange color. It looks good in the glass. It tastes good. It smells great. I'm really looking forward to people getting a chance to try that one.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to try it.
Nice.
So
That
I think
sounds
other
amazing.
than that, I just dropped a St. Augustine beer video on our YouTube. You can also find it on hopsnews.beer if you go to articles under beercations. So there's not too many breweries in St. Augustine, but you don't go there for beer. You go there for the history and for the beaches, but there's lots of good beer there. And if you enjoyed this episode, I will throw an article on our website with all of the links from the articles we all read, and even a link to if you're really curious about the trademark infringement laws, I'll throw that link on there too, to the Cornell Law School. And that's about it. And I guess thank you all for tuning in. And I think this is the last one I'm hosting. I think Jay is back in the driver's seat next week because it will be April. It will no longer be Women's History Month. Oh, I forgot. I don't have my book here. If you are into beer and you want to support women in history, there's an awesome book by Tara Nurin. I will post that on the website too, on the Stone one. It's called A Woman's Place is in the Brew House, something like that. Super awesome book. I've been meaning to mention it all month. It talks about beer goddesses who were women, all the way to beer CEOs and everything in between, with the witches and the traditions and alewives and brewsters and all that. Super awesome, very beer geeky book. And that's all we got, I guess. Cheers.
That's awesome. Cheers,
awesome.
everybody.
Cheers,
I swear, 16-ounce beer is the perfect length of 1 hour podcast.
I had 2.
I'm convinced that they're sized that way on purpose. Like, here's enough beer for an hour.
Right. But sometimes the 16-ounce like kicks your ass a little bit more than those 12-ounce. I do miss 12-ounce cans.